Welcome to Det-Tronics Technical Brief number 230, Flame Detector Testing and Maintenance. This video is in response to a common question about what routine maintenance needs to be performed on Det-Tronics flame detectors, especially since Det-Tronics detectors with automatic optical integrity do not require routine or regularly scheduled maintenance. The best reference for routine maintenance guidance is NFPA 72. The code specifically calls out radiant energy fire detectors testing to be performed quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. The guidance provided by NFPA 72 is applicable to all Det-Tronics flame detectors. This video will focus fulfilling these requirements for an installed X3301. It will provide guidance on fulfilling the NFPA quarterly, semi-annual, and annual testing requirements. Let's get started. The NFPA classification for Det-Tronics flame detectors are radiant energy flame detectors. The quarterly check is a visual check to verify that no point requiring detection is obstructed or outside the detector's view. Everything looks good here. The detector seems to be aimed in the right direction, and there is a clear, unobstructed view to the points requiring detection. Now here we have a problem. For some reason, a sunshade or weather guard has been installed and is now blocking the points requiring detection. This needs to be addressed immediately, as the detector can't see through the structure to the points requiring detection. And since you are close to the detector, here is a list of things that are not recommended until the annual check, but would be a best practice to check now. You should check the bracket and the detector are secure. All 6 windows are clean. Here is an animation to show you the 6 windows to check for cleanliness, just in case you are not familiar with the 3 under the reflector plate. A calibration is required if you remove the reflector plate, so you should not remove the reflector plate unless you are prepared to perform a calibration. You should check to make sure that the reflector plate is not corroded while you are looking at the windows, and then check to see that the conduit entries into the housing are all plugged and the detector status is good or green. The quarterly check is done. The semi-annual check includes the quarterly, or the visual check, and a test of the detector's sensitivity and the detector's operability. First, before we start, the sensitivity test and the operability test will affect the detector's output, so all extinguishing devices should be disabled before executing either. The sensitivity test is not checking the actual sensitivity of the detector. It is simply making sure the sensitivity setting in the detector is what it is supposed to be. The easiest way to check a detector sensitivity is doing a power up while viewing the status LED. This chart is in the X3301 instruction manual and spells out the number of flashes that corresponds to a sensitivity level. Now, let's see how it works. I momentarily remove power to the detector. Upon powering it back up, you see the status LED flashes yellow twice. This indicates to me that the sensitivity of this detector is medium. That happened fast. Let me do it again. 2 flashes, medium. The sensitivity configuration needs to be changed if this detector's sensitivity is supposed to be something other than medium. Now let's look at how to test the detector's operability, detection, and output. The test for this is the MAG or manual OI test. It is the same test, just called out differently by the tool used to initiate the test. The test is intended to check the optical integrity of the detector. All Det-Tronics flame detectors run this test automatically, but you can learn more on how the optical integrity, or the OI test, works by viewing the Det-Tronics Technical Brief number 220. But the NFPA standard requires it to be manually initiated, and then it tests the detector's output. As mentioned, the test can be initiated by different tools or means. Here are 5 technical briefs that can show you how to run the manual OI test with the tool or tools that you have. The semi-annual testing is done. Annually, you must perform the quarterly visual checks, and the semi-annual test for correct sensitivity and detector operability, and then ensure there are no changes that will affect the detector operability. The checks for changes in detector operability were covered in this video in the quarterly test as something to do as a best practice. Now they are required at the annual interval. You must ensure that the bracket and detector are secure, all 6 windows are clean and the reflector plate is not corroded, ensure all conduit entries into the housing are plugged and sealed, and ensure the detector status is good. To summarize, the NFPA 72 standard calls out 3 test intervals: quarterly, semi-annual, and annual, and the requirements for each. The quarterly requirement is a visual inspection to ensure there are no obstructions between the flame detector and points requiring detection. Not required, but a best practice, is to ensure the detector and its bracket are secure, the windows and the reflector plate are clean, and the detector status is good. The semi-annual requirement is to ensure that the detector sensitivity is correct and to perform an operability test. The MAG or manual OI test, which tests the detector's optics and outputs. The annual requirement is to ensure that there are no changes that can affect the detector's operability. The detector and the bracket are secure, the windows and the reflector plate are clean, all conduit entries are plugged and sealed, and the detector status is good. This video was developed by Det-Tronics Educational Services. Here is contact information if you have comments or you would like more information.